and then enable you to communicate with the screen directly, so that your image appears on the screen, overlaying the program, and any sensitive point, and I'll show you how to put those sensitive points into the screen. Any sensitive point becomes like an icon on an ordinary Macintosh computer, so that as your image touches that point on the screen, it generates commands, operating commands, which would be sounds or colorization or animation of any kind. And there are several examples of this on the system, which makes it very, which is probably one of the most truly interactive systems that I have ever seen or read about. And it was developed, right here in Ontario, between the University of Waterloo Computer Science and some of their group, and a guy who came from there called Frank McDougall, and the artist who had the idea was a dancer, who was called John Vincent. It is also a graphic artist, and you'll see some of his graphic art on these programs. So what the program is doing now, every single feature of the program appears on that screen. I think we've got it all yet. Done now. So I'm waiting for that power bar so that you can see the whole thing. There's no point showing you halfway. What I can say besides that is, I can probably, while we're waiting for it, describe what this screen actually shows. So you all see it properly. I thought that would be a little bit small, isn't it? Those who are in the back might want to come a little closer. Or I was going to do this thing in two parts, basically. First, give you a talk about the psychology and biology of television and video, and then we'll have time for question and answer, and then we will all be able to play with this system, because anybody can use it. You might be interested in trying out how it works. So maybe we proceed that way. Is that right, Richard? Is that it? Okay. We'll just I prepared a talk. I don't plan to read the whole thing, but it's nice to have a bit of the information under my eyes in case I lose thread of my thought. What I mean by biology and the psychology of television and video is not, I hasten to add, a scientific concept. I'm not going to give you a great deal of results of studies in labs and so on what video and television does to you, or how they affect you. I know a few things of that nature, and I will definitely try and bring them in whenever they're relevant. But what I really mean is that the electronic screen technologies are extensions of the human body and mind, and they act within the social ground as psychological and cultural modifiers. What I'm talking about is the whole world of electronic screens or video and television that is basically providing us with a completely new environment of which we are only faintly aware, which we have not yet fully assimilated. We're in the same situation now, over the last, let's say, 30 years or so of television diffusions or television distribution, as you could imagine the first 50 years of the Renaissance after the development of the printing press. That is a time of transition between a middle-aged view of man to a complete new understanding of what man really represents, a fragmentation of the old tribal, familial setting into individualism, a new kind of individualism that appears in the Renaissance and is expressed in the art forms as well as in political forms. And today we are experiencing the same kind of transition, but we don't know exactly where it's leading, and some of the research that I'm doing is to understand just that. Television, as I see it, is a large psychotechnology. It brings out imaging functions from within the human mind and exposes and collectivizes their effect. Its purpose is to regulate social behavior, just as your conscious mind serves to balance and regulate your personal behavior. One thing we are used to the private person. We're used to the private identity and the private control of our own minds and our own sensibilities. And definitely artists are much aware of this sort of thing because that's what they have to work with. They have to work with the immediate references of their own body, their own world, their own environment, and they see it through the personal vision. the idea of a personal vision of an artist is a Renaissance concept. Now that we are looking at art, which is a collective, great deal of teamwork goes into new technological art forms, even that has to be redefined, and we haven't quite found great definitions for this. We are, in the history of cinema, for instance, we achieve different stages, at which point an actor is more important, the stage manager is more important, the auteur theory brings in the creator, the réalisateur as the most important person. Ultimately, though, you have to realize a lot of art forms today are collective, and we haven't found yet an understanding of how to develop, how to present this in a general scheme. TV acts as our collective technical mind, much in the way our personal psychological consciousness has become, television has become an information processing, an important information processing system, and an equilibration system for decision making, emotional soothing, deliberative functions, meditation, and fantasy. I worked for 10 years with Marshall McLuhan, and one of the most interesting things he told me during that time of work was that in order to understand the difference between television and cinema or film, you had to understand TV as fantasy and cinema as dream. Now, the relationship between cinema and dream is an old one. A lot of people who are interested in film compare it, like Christian Metz, to dream theory. A lot of people who are interested in dream think in terms of images coming from the film world. One thing that is not common is this comparison between television and fantasy. Although people say that television provides escaping that helps your fantasy life, what's the difference? What's the difference between a fantasy, what would be in McLuhan's term, the difference between a fantasy coming from the television medium and film? Well, there are many that really work well. You see a film at night, usually in a dark environment, and it is completely out of your control. And it comes in a kind of, it's a single channel, and it's one which gives priority to editing to a great extent. In film, dreams are kind of edited sequences of images, very much like the film world. TV, on the other hand, happens in your own house, at your own time, any time of the day, and you can have control over it. Maybe you have more control over it in North America than Europe because there are many more channels, but you can really switch from one channel to the other, and you can basically command your fantasy. Granted that the span of choice or the availability of choice is still fairly limited, but by and large you have a way of, and you can daydream with television. Television is a kind of a dreaming system for people who are not busy at that time doing something else. Another thing which is interesting is TV proposes an incessant undercurrent talk, day and night. You know what it's like in your own mind to cut off your own internal battle. There's always something going on in your brain, something talking, something you are. And what are you doing when you're doing this for? What is it, this talking that goes on in your mind all the time when you're actually not using your mouth to talk to people, when you are thinking? Those who are the better among us have managed to control it, but most of us simply are constantly the prey of this constant deliberation, sometimes irrepressive, of internal talking, which is a kind of a permanent reviewing of your problems at the time. TV doesn't. TV is an available collective undercurrent talking all the time. And you'd be interested to know that television provides you 50 channels to do that, but your brain too. You switch channels in your own brain when you have this undercurrent talk. So television becomes a very strong metaphor for the workings of our consciousness. And by the way, this undercurrent talk is not just radio talk it is also image talk. It's also a building of images that flash in and out of your mind that you work on, that are processed and are processing things. So that the comparison between TV and the person, or the comparison between the private mind of the person and the collective mind of television, is becoming more and more relevant.